We are back and we have some breaking news. Fanatics has just acquired Topps. This will undoubtedly, it's going to change the future, the path, what's coming for the sports card market in the next couple of years. But before we get too far down that rabbit hole, let's try to dive into some of the details that are available now, and also maybe catch some of you guys up who haven't been following this Fanatics saga at every step along the way. So this all started in August, technically I think last year now, of 2021, when Fanatics acquired the licenses to not only the NFL, the MLB, but the NBA as well. Previously, Panini was the exclusive producer of cards for the NBA and the NFL, and Topps was the exclusive producer for the MLB. And basically Fanatics and Josh Luber, the person who's kind of spearheading their effort, their little entrance into this market, came in with a big check and said, yeah, well, we're gonna take all three of these now. And almost immediately after that, people started speculating that Fanatics, they have to acquire one of these companies. Whether it's Topps, Panini, maybe Upper Deck. People didn't think they were just gonna start their own brand new card company, brand new names, brand new brands. They were gonna acquire one of these companies that has a legacy, has a real brand recognition, and today's that day. Who knows if it stops here, but at least for now, they've acquired Topps. Now in terms of specific details of this particular acquisition, it's a little light right now, but I did check out the CNBC and the Wall Street Journal article, and the only two pieces of news I saw that were considered new in any type of way were one, that CNBC reported that this deal is north of around $500 million. Number two is that insiders are saying this should allow Fanatics to immediately jumpstart their entry into the sports card world. Like with baseball, with the MLB, for example, they weren't supposed to start producing MLB cards with the official license until 2025. So that's pretty far down the road. Now they can get straight into it. How immediate will that be? I don't think we know for sure, but it'll definitely be a lot sooner than 2025. I think we do know that for sure. So that's it for the article. But more importantly than that, what does this mean for sports cards? What does this mean for the sports card market? No one knows for sure, but what fun would it be if we didn't speculate at least a little bit? So I do have a couple takeaways, some positive things that I think will happen as a result of Fanatics acquiring Topps, but also some negatives as well, some things I'm a little concerned about. First, for the positives, and I can't imagine that anyone's not happy about this, the return and the continuation of iconic brands like Topps Chrome. I'm a huge fan of sets like Topps Chrome Basketball, and I was super sad to see it disappear for the hobby for a while. Prism is great, but I always had a soft spot in my heart for Topps Chrome. I think the design of those cards is just so beautiful. So I'm excited now that Fanatics has Topps, they have the NBA license. There's zero doubt in my mind that Topps Chrome Basketball will be coming back and it's gonna be officially licensed. Now, I'm not a big baseball card collector, but I would imagine the continuation of Topps in that particular hobby is huge. I mean, they've been producing baseball cards since 1951, uninterrupted. And to imagine after 70 years for that to all of a sudden just stop, I mean, how can that not be sad? I think a lot of people were concerned about that, and maybe not everyone agrees. Maybe some people were looking forward to something a little bit new, but I imagine a lot of people are excited that the brands that they're used to, the brands they love, the brands that they've collected for a long time, they're not going anywhere. They're gonna keep being produced. I know for me personally with basketball cards, I would have been fine with anything as long as it was a brand I was at least familiar with. If we had Prism, if we had Topps Chrome, if we had Upper Deck Basketball, that all would have been fine, but I wasn't looking forward to collecting atmospheric Fanatics brand or some weird thing that they came up with. I'm glad that I'm gonna be buying NBA cards of a brand that I know and I'm excited to collect. Number two on the positives is now Topps won't overprint the hobby into the ground. Once it was announced that Fanatics had acquired the licenses, there was a lot of people concerned that Topps and Panini, now they basically had no incentive not to overproduce cards. They had 3 years, 2 years, whatever it is, to print as many cards as possible, make as much money as possible, and not care at all what it ends up doing to the hobby. Now, at least with Topps, we know that's not gonna happen. And if you've listened to any of Josh Luber's podcasts, interviews, anything he's done, you can tell this guy is knowledgeable about the sports card market. That doesn't mean he's always gonna make the right decisions, but he's coming from the sneaker world and supply and demand. He's thought a lot about distribution, being careful of overprinting. So at the very least, at least this company has some sort of incentive to keep the hobby balanced and not just print and print and print and make as much money as they can because they know they're losing the license in a year or two. Number 3, kind of piggybacking off that, and this one is a little bit more debatable, but the Fanatics era starts now. Now, that in itself, you may think, okay, that's not necessarily a positive, but it does mean that there's less uncertainty in the market. Whether it's the stock market, crypto, anything, uncertainty is always bad for the market. So for good or for bad, Fanatics is starting now, and we're gonna see what they do, see what they're bringing to the table, what's gonna be different, what's gonna be better, what's gonna be worse. Of course, I have some concerns, and I'm sure there's stuff that I'm gonna miss from the Topps and Panini era, but especially in the last year or two, I don't think there's that many people who think Panini and Topps are just doing the most amazing job in the world. I know for a fact that high prices of hobby boxes, overprinting, way too many parallels, unfair distribution systems, there's a lot to criticize. I don't know for sure, but I am hopeful that Fanatics comes in and starts making some changes that immediately benefit the hobby. Now, in terms of the negatives though, unfortunately, I do have to mention those as well. The first would be that the monopoly on the sports card market just got bigger. I was already a tiny bit concerned when I saw that Fanatics would have MLB, NBA, and NFL, because in general, monopolies are usually not a good thing for the consumer. But I kind of imagined Topps was gonna be a little, Star Wars Rebel Alliance. They were still gonna be there bothering the Fanatics empire, having their little F1, some soccer, some of these other alternative sports. They would just be doing some things so it's not like a complete sports card monopoly, and at the very least they could keep Fanatics on their toes. Now that's all gone. Fanatics has F1, they have soccer. I don't know how much of a threat Topps would have been. Maybe they would have done unlicensed product. I'm not sure if people would have bought that. But I do think the more separate, independent companies that are true competitors to the big behemoth, the better. Because like I said, at least it keeps them honest a little bit. They can't just do whatever they want. Going off that to number 2, I think there's gonna be less focus on the emerging sports card markets now. If Topps didn't have any of the major American sports licenses anymore, what were they gonna spend their time on? What was their only hope? It was gonna be F1, it was gonna be soccer. I'm a collector of those cards, and I was hopeful that they would put all their attention there and they would really spend the time to nurture, to grow that market, to come up with innovative products, to listen to the customer, to listen to the consumer, because that was the only hope. They know they're not getting back that NBA license, they're not getting back that baseball license at any point, so their future was really dependent on these different alternative type of sports and growing that market and making the best sports cards they can for them. Now we'll have to see what Fanatics does with these licenses they got from Topps, but I do think it's only natural that your focus is gonna be on the big money makers. You're gonna be focused on your basketball cards, your baseball cards, your football cards. Especially as a new company, maybe you don't put as much thought into F1 or soccer. And with those being markets that I'm really interested in, I'm a little concerned. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, but it's definitely something at least to consider. And the last negative, it's the end of Topps as we know it. As I mentioned before, they've been producing baseball cards at least since 1951. And for many people who have been in the hobby for a long time, like myself growing up as a kid, I collected Topps cards. And they certainly have their flaws, as I mentioned before, especially with the recent overprinting and the lack of product available. There's a bunch of different stuff you could criticize them on, but like them or not, they've been a huge part of almost every single person's hobby experience. And if they had just done the absolute worst job in the world producing sports cards, then all the people watching this right now, they wouldn't be still in the hobby. So that certainty is gone now. We don't know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be the same name, but it's a completely new company and they're gonna be doing different things. But I am a fan of Josh Luber. I like what he's had to say, and I'm excited that he can bring some new, exciting, innovative ideas to the hobby. But all right, guys, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment what you think is going to happen, positives and negatives, and we will see you next time.